What's up, guys? John here. Everything we once knew about California is now going to change, set to change in about 10 days, called Prop 33. And why I think this is going to pass, and if this does pass, what this will mean is unbelievable.
Prop 33 is the latest attempt to expand rent control in California.
Not all cities in California have rent control. Prop 33 aims to address that.
Under current California law, cities cannot set rent control on single-family homes. Prop 33 would change that. Cities would be allowed to control the rents on any type of housing.
So why is this going to pass? Well, the city of Los Angeles, they're endorsing it. You have the White House. They did a deal with the entire state of California called the All Inside Project. And this All Inside Project meant that they're going to eradicate homelessness by 50% in the state of California by next year. In addition to this, the year before they signed that deal with the White House, Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, signed a state of emergency on homelessness. What does all this mean? It means that it's going to get a lot harder to evict inside of the state of California, because how can homelessness be reduced if more people are getting evicted for failure to pay? Well, Prop 33 is going to really be the great rug pull that's going to unfold on these property owners and investors. And this is why I think we should all pay attention to what's not just happening in California, but what's going to be coming across the entire nation, and why I think it's going to change the way people invest. You know, where I am right now, this beautiful house right here, I'm going to think this would be in California. Something like this, California, maybe West Hollywood Flats, you're probably looking at $1.3 million, maybe even $1.5 million, depending on the street, maybe even close to $2 million. That house is probably $85,000, $90,000. All these homes, like they're working on their homes, they really care about the properties here. You're looking at sub $100,000. I'm gonna show you a house up the street here. The landlord had a dispute with the tenant, tossed everything right in the street. That would never happen in California. The landlord would go to jail. you don't have that type of right to do that on your property, in your property in California. So one thing is going to be called vacancy control. So if you own an apartment building, and let's say you're renting out your apartments at, let's say they're all 1 bedrooms, and you're renting out these 1 bedrooms at $1,500 a month. Well, let's say the tenants stay there for 4 or 5 years, and you're only able to increase rent 5 or 6, 7% a year. So at the end of that 5-year period, you want to increase rent to market rate, which now might be $2,000, $2,500, $3,000. You would not be allowed to do it. You would have to increase it at the 1,500 plus, those annual increases, adding all those up. It'll be a very, very nominal number. Now, some people say this is a really good thing because, rents aren't going to be going up, and it's going to be, it's going to be better for affordability. But the reality is the complete opposite, because insurance has skyrocketed inside of California. If you look at the fires and you look at everything that's unfolded there, it's a really, really, really big challenge to get insurance. Well, those newfound costs are going to be put onto landlords, and these landlords are unable to push them onto the tenant, meaning these landlords are going to absorb losses. But this is just the beginning of it, because the state of California has now brought forward these decarbonization mandates for property owners. They've come to the number, this is online, $28,000 per unit is what it will cost to bring them up to code, to bring them up to clean energy codes. So if you have a fourplex, you're looking at $100,000, $100,000, $100,000. Can't push it onto the tenant. So you start to ask yourself, who owns these properties, these investors? Is it the greedy corporations? The facts, there's 80% of all housing provided by landlords are mom and pop, people that own 10 units or less. Own a duplex here, triplex here. A lot of people in California, if you live in, or if you've been to East LA, a lot of people from South America, maybe own a restaurant, laundromat, a mechanic shop, hardworking American people. They bought something, in the 80s, 90s, and they fixed it up hoping to have that be the retirement. Well, these new changes are going to almost ensure that large corporations, nonprofits, and large entities are going to be acquiring massive stocks of housing all throughout the state. And they're going to be able to do it and say, look, we're going to be able to bring housing costs down. But the reality, if you wanted to bring housing costs down, you would incentivize builders and developers to supply more housing, not incentivize the complete opposite. What they're incentivizing is a takeover of housing in California. And now, this isn't just the landlords though. Mom and pop property owners that own a single family home 2 single-family homes. What we're seeing now, if this passes, is that even these homes, if I were in California, which I'm not, but even these homes would be subject to rent control. So if, let's say this is a $1 million house and you wanted to rent out that $1 million house for $5,000 a month, let's say the tenant, you only want them to rent it for a year. Say the tenant doesn't want to move out after the year. It's your problem. You wouldn't be able to get them out. They're locked in to that $5,000 a month payment plus whatever the increase might be, 5%, 7% a year. You wouldn't be able to get your house back. If the tenant did not want to pay, and you had to evict, that would be, you basically would lose your entire annual rent collection on the eviction process, because what happens now is these tenants, they have access to something called Public Counsel and BASTA, which is a free tenant advocacy network paid for by taxpayers. And what they do, what their plan is, and I've dealt with this myself, it's a disaster. What their plan is they don't want this to be a fast trial. They want to drag it out for 6 months to a year so the tenant can live for free inside of your house and nothing you can do about it. So if rent's $2,000 a month and it's a year, you're paying $24,000 you're getting in lost revenue while you still have to maintain the property and you get nothing for it. Then you have to come out of pocket for your own legal fees, because if you're hiring an attorney, you're not getting free landlord advocacy network. No, you're getting $400 an hour attorneys, $300 an hour attorneys who are going to be more than happy to go to jury trial. And at the end, you'll spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in just attorney's fees. And then when you get to jury trial, what the tenant's attorney will say is, look, we'll be willing to settle with you, waive the entire 6 months or a year worth of back rent, and write my client a check for $30,000, $50,000. Write him a check, and then this will all go away. It's a big extortion racket for how it actually works in California. But if this thing passes, it's going to get so much worse, because landlords are they're going to realize that they're completely cornered, and the city and state which they operate in is completely against them. Right now, there's still a belief that it's somewhat fair, but when this thing passes, and I really do think it's going to pass, because City of LA is already endorsing it. The deal with the White House is already done. The mayor of Los Angeles already signed the emergency on homelessness. And you have Bernie Sanders and all these very, very, very wealthy and powerful people all endorsing it. Look at this. Tenants stopped paying. They just said, you know what? Out of here. Go. Right? You're not doing that here in California. Look at this house. That is a nice house. Huge lot too. Less than $100,000, right? Look at all these homes. My prediction is what we're gonna see is we're gonna see these investors saying, you know what, screw it. I love California, I love the weather, love the people, love the job opportunities. I love what California has always been, but I don't like what it's going to be. And what are they gonna do? They're gonna be selling off their properties, and they're gonna be looking to invest in markets where they can buy properties that are lower in price with a higher rental yield and diversify their risk in a market where they're appreciated. That's what I think where I am right now. These homes, it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable opportunity that soon everyone's going to know about, and soon everyone's going to be investing in. And it's not just my specific where I am right now. I'm talking about there's a couple dozen of these markets all throughout the country where people come and still buy a house for $100,000. Some people think, oh, you buy a house for $100,000, the neighborhood must be horrible. It must be, so really run down. A lot of these people in these neighborhoods have been nicer to me than more upper echelon neighborhoods in LA. And same thing in New York City. They're humble, nice, genuine American people that are hardworking and friendly. That's been my experience with all of them. And I've spoken to a ton of them because I always want to speak to the neighbors and see what the crime's like, and just kind of feel people out and learn. That's how you learn. You talk to people. And when people start to get wind of this, they're like, oh, $100,000, okay, put 10 grand down. If you were to rent an apartment in LA, you're looking at first month, last month, and deposit, maybe 3 grand each, $9,000. What was the cost of a down payment? And your mortgage here would be like $700 a month. So these investors are saying, look, I could buy these homes, Section 8, paying $1,500, $1,600 a month for some of these houses. You make like a $700, $800 a month spread. In California, if you were to invest $1 million, you'd be lucky to get $5,000 a month in net income. If you had $1 million in cash that you put down, $1 million in cash. So if you were to put $1 million in cash in one of these neighborhoods, if you just did it in down payments, like just putting $20,000 down in every single, house, you think about it, like you could buy dozens and dozens of houses, all producing $600, $700, $800 in monthly spread across all of them. That's what I think is going to happen. I think these big investors, small mom and pop investors, corporations all across the country are going to be looking for a way in which they can de-risk themselves from places like California. California is running their citizens and their investors into a wall, and they're going 100 miles an hour. I made that prediction in 2020, saying, look, the problems in California are just starting. It's just started. I sold my property in LA. It was a rental property in 2021. And I was predicting in the future, we're gonna see a very, very, very uphill battle inside of California, inside of LA. And, about a year later, Karen Bass signed that emergency. And then a year after that, the state of California signed a deal with the White House. And now you have Prop 33. You have all of these things that are moving in this direction, this electrification of properties. All of these newfound costs pushed on the property owners, and property owners have to just eat it. They just have to eat it after having basically 4 years, 3.5 years, with an eviction moratorium where they were just eating massive, massive, massive losses. So I love California. I love LA. I think it's an incredible place. I think it's just a scary place for landlords and investors that want to operate and run a business there. From the landlord side, I think there's a lot of really, really beautiful homes and a lot of really great places in California that own single family homes, but not if you intend to rent them out. I think you're going to see a lot of opportunity to invest in these homes, as a primary residence in the next year or two. But I think in terms of cash flow, there's so many better areas, so many better locations where you can take a small amount of money and basically set yourself up. Because what do you really need to live a decent life? $10,000 a month, right? $10,000 a month. You think about it, it's like, all right, you need basically 7 of these homes, and maybe 9 of these homes if you're using 10 of these homes if you're using and maybe a little more, maybe like 12 of these homes if you're only putting down payments down on them. If you're buying them cash, obviously a lot less. But it's like you need probably $200,000. You can make probably $10,000 a month. It's a structural change unfolding in the U.S. economy that I think all investors all across the country are going to be paying attention to, and everything's going to be changing next couple of years. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, everything's going to crash. The world's going to, go to hell in a handbag and all that stuff." Not for the rich. The rich are just going to keep getting richer. I think Prop 33 is going to really hurt the real rich. No. The large corporations are going to get filthy rich off this thing, picking up deals, pennies on the dollar. That's what's going to happen. And all crashes, it's never the rich that get injured. The rich get 10x, 20x richer. This upcoming disaster is not going to be any different. The rich are going to keep getting richer. And it's up to people to understand where this is all going and invest accordingly. Because if they don't, then everything is going to be basically rented from the rich. And California is ensuring that. Millions of people that own homes, that own rental properties, are going to be impacted, and these large corporations are going to be greatly benefited by what's going on. So my suggestion is understand what's happening in your specific market, build out a really, really good game plan to build wealth, protect yourself and your family, and really, really, really look at landlord-tenant laws where you're thinking about investing. Where you invest almost matters more than the investment itself. Because if you invest in a market that's expensive and you have no rights over your property, and they're going to continue to punish you and punish you and punish you, the first year, 2 years, 3 years, you might make money. But as the world gets more radical, year 4, year 5, year 6, you might have to give the property back. But you buy one of these properties, like, let's say, for example, these homes were California, right? Let's say that this house is $100,000 and you can rent it for $1,500 a month. So let's just say, for example, you can make $18,000, $19,000 a year in gross income. Say you owed nothing on the property. You only pay tax and insurance, maybe $300 a month. So let's just call it, we'll say $13,000, $14,000 a year in net income, right? In 8 years, you get the entire purchase price back in 8 years, right? So if you pay 100 grand, in 8 years, you get your entire 100 grand back. And then after that, you just basically get, distributions consistently. If they do the same upgrades and like, okay, you have to pay $28,000 to upgrade this property. It's like, that's unfortunate. No doubt about it. It's unfortunate, but you're making that kind of money on 100 grand. You're making double-digit returns. People will say, okay, fine. Matter of fact, what's likely going to happen is a lot of these people that live in this neighborhood will say, look, I can't afford to spend 20 grand or 15,000 or whatever it is to do these upgrades. And there's going to be immense inventory where people are just going to say, you know what, I'm going to buy this and underwrite that cost into this new deal, and I'll buy it for less down the road. But it's the ones that have the economies of scale that are probably already starting with 50 or 100 of these houses, and they're getting more and more and more cash flow, and they're able just to continue to build and build and build to their portfolio. You don't want to wait until a crash happens and then you're like, okay, now I'm going to try to buy. It's going to be impossible to get funding. It's going to be very, very, very hard to get funding. But if you already have a ton of doors and a ton of cash flow coming in, things hit the fan, you apply for a loan, you want to do something, it's like you're able to get it done. So the next 2-3 years is all about building wealth and doing it in a very, very intelligent way. But you got to really look at the warning signs, and the warning signs are blinking red for the state of California. If Prop 33 passes, be careful. And if it doesn't, it's not the end, because that's not the end of it. They're going to continue to push and push and push more and more and more of these policies. And the more expensive and more challenging the world gets, the more it's going to be blamed on corporations, landlords, and investors. Fraud reaction solution for this crisis that we're walking into. Investors, be prepared. Let's have a conversation about this below. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you next video. Also, if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for funding, maybe you're thinking about investing in distressed real estate. You want to have great credit. We'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative or derogatory items in your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com, click the link in the description just below this video, schedule a call for Monday, catch you next video.